even bow in, I want to review this stuff that I scribbled down for you guys the other day as a way of kind of visually seeing what I'm asking you to do when you're holding your swords. Okay. The bottom of your sword, your left hand, okay, has to be at the level of your belly button or your navel. And when the sword comes out at an angle like this, the tip of the sword should be about the level of your throat. Okay, you might not be able to see that very well if you're just sort of, if you're not looking in the mirror or in a camera, but think about that, okay? That may require that you have to push down on that left hand in order to get the correct angle in your sword. Okay, but I want you to think about this image and really try to remember that. If I was looking straight at you from the front, okay, I want you to really think about a line, a straight line coming down through your body, okay? And then that is actually a line that is on the ground as well, that you were walking along. So all of that stuff is all aligned the entire time. And that sword is right on that line as well. So don't let it stick out to the side one way or the other. When it's up in the air, try to keep it, you know, right above your center line the whole time. It's a really, really good way of developing awareness of where your center is and letting that sword extend directly out from that center point, okay? Technically, it's about I would say like 3 fingers below your navel, but your belly button's pretty good target to say, hey, make your sword stick out from there. So I've tried to show Hanmi here, but you know, if I smudge this one, remember that Hanmi, your front foot is on the line and the back foot is on a diagonal with it divided by the line, okay? So that's going this way and this way. Hanmi, Hanmi, Hanmi. Saito Sensei would say, if you're not standing in Hanmi, you're not doing Aikido. He was a little bit opinionated that way. Okay, so here it is when you're done with the cut, still coming straight out from the navel and always as flat as possible. So cut slowly down with your weapon so that you can make sure you stop at this level point, not go below that. If you're cutting too fast and trying to be fancy, you're likely to cut below that level and it looks terrible and it's a bad practice, okay? When we raise up to do the second Suburi, this is the angle you're looking for here with your elbows in, okay? Don't stick your elbows out like this, like chicken wings, okay? If we're having a sword fight and your elbows are sticking out, they're gonna get hit by my sword and you will be sad. So keep your elbows in. I'll demonstrate what that looks like too. And then this last one over here, because when you thrust, your feet are in a different stance. They're not in Hanmi anymore. They're in something called shitoemi, okay? This is actually spelled hito-emi, hito, but it's pronounced like shitoemi. So in shitoemi, your front foot is the same, but the back foot is turned and the toes are in line with the back heel. And that allows your body to be sideways. This looks like a mess down here. Here's the body, it's sideways, and the right arm pushes across so that when you're thrusting, you're less of a target. Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But the body has to be really sideways when you're thrusting with a sword. When you're thrusting with a jo, it's sideways already. But you really have to pay attention to that. Okay, so if you have your something to hold on to, a weapon to hold on to, I want you to hold it so that it goes on a diagonal through your hand. Don't hold it like a hammer, okay? Not like this, but you can see the lines, right? Whoops, the lines in the hand are on a diagonal right there, okay? So the sword goes right in line with that, okay? Like on a diagonal. Then you grip primarily with your pinky and your ring finger and your middle finger, and then with your thumb, okay? And you want your index finger, knuckle, to be on top. Okay. So I can press down. Same thing goes for this. See the diagonal here? Pinky, middle finger, ring finger and middle finger. And then it's almost like your index finger is alongside the top, but you bring it down. You want both of those index finger knuckles, this one and this one, to be on top. Okay. So it's like you're wringing out a towel. Okay. If I'm doing it here, you can see it's like this. Okay, so that those knuckles, those index finger knuckles are on top. Not like this, you guys. Okay, that's not good. Here, rotating in. Be careful not to lock your elbows out too much, though. Okay, you don't want to be with locked arms, elbows locked. Okay, you have to relax the elbows a little bit, but still keep those like turned over. That's so the bone structure of your arm and your hand can push down through the sword. If you're like this, it's just the fleshy part of your thumb and it's less strong, okay? One of my fist lengths or one of your fist lengths in between each of your hands, okay? Like that, enough of a fist length between there, okay? Boom. And it comes out about the level of my navel and it's about the level of my throat. And when I'm done cutting, it's like this. Not here. You cut, boom, stops right there. So go really slow if you're unsure if you can handle that precision, okay? Right out of your navel, right out of your belly button. Okay, so it's time to bow in. I'm gonna do it standing, and you guys can do that as well. Please be careful if you do have a sword or some type of implement that you're using and you're inside, please be aware of what's over your head. Please don't break anything. Be very careful, all right? So I'm gonna walk over here so you can see me and I'm gonna bow in facing the woods over there. So I can get that house out of the way. Yeah, you can see me. All right, here we go. All right, move your sword into your left hand. And so let's remember how to do this. Your sword is in your left hand. You reach across so your hands are right next to each other. And then you bring it right up past your ear and step forward with your right foot into Shomen Kamae. That just means a front stance. When you put it away, it just goes back like this. Okay, if I'm facing away from you, you can see I just grab on this side. I hold it in my left hand. Here, right up past my ear, and step out. And when I'm done, put it right back the same way. Please don't do a fancy, and then like, don't do all that, okay? That's not what we're doing. If you wanted to practice Aikido, that would be awesome. That's the art of drawing the sword. But just like this. All right. So we're going to do Suburi. If you guys haven't been around for that yet, there are 7 of them, and we're going to do each one slowly so everyone has a chance. And I'll talk it through. All right. So standing with your feet together and come into Kamae here. So Ichi no Suburi is simply sliding your front foot back and the sword up, and then cutting down as the foot comes back out. Feet together, well, not really together, but the front foot just slides back until it runs into the back foot, and then slide back out and cut. I'm not doing a lot of up and down with my legs, but there is a bit of a hip drop at the end. Boom. Up and down. Doesn't have to be fast. When I'm raising the sword, it comes right to my spine, right here, and then cut straight forward. So it's in line with my body. So as I'm demonstrating it, I want you to continue to do it as well. It's nice and slow, all the way up to your spine, touching your spine, all the way back down. Try to get the timing. So you don't want to do this and then this and then this and then this. It moves together. Here, 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 here. Okay. When I'm raising the sword over my head, I want you guys to see this maybe. Okay, as it comes up, I'm not continuing to hold on tight, because if I hold on tight, it's going to make my elbows come out. So watch what my bottom hand does. It kind of does that. It kind of opens so that I can keep my elbows in, and it's on my spine as well. So as you raise this, the bottom hand can kind of loosen up a little bit. And then as it comes down, it tightens back to where it's supposed to be. Okay, it's up here, it loosens, and then it comes down, grabs tightly again. This one stays the same, all right? I'm gonna mention this when we get into some of the other ones as well, but I mentioned the elbows before, right? So you don't want to do this with your elbows. They have to stay in like this. So as I'm raising, my elbows stay in, and when I cut, it's elbows, hands, sword. Not like this. Okay, keep those, right? You're gonna cut my elbow over here. Keep your elbows in. Okay, so a few more times. This is Ichi no Suburi. Up, down, up, down. Hopefully you can see from this angle, down. The sword goes straight up and straight down in that line. And my hanmi is exact, and it stays the same each time. Okay? Ichi no Suburi. The way my upper body is held is important. So let's see, if I do it this way, you'll probably see better. Don't let your shoulders roll forward like this. Okay, stand up straight. Keep your chest up. Not like pompous, right? But also not collapsed. Okay? If you see people who have that kind of, if you see someone, excuse me, that's what I get for looking into the sun. If you see this feeling of collapse in someone, you might say, oh, they look kind of defeated. You know, like I've showed you guys this before. This is what everyone looks like when they're on their phone. Okay? The shoulders are rounded. It's like a position of defeat, like, oh. So, hey, if you've got a phone and you're looking at your phone, try it like this, okay? Keep your head up, keep your chest up, don't collapse. Go ahead and be as big as you are. Don't show off, but, you know, inhabit the power that in your own body, okay? Don't hide from it. Be as big as you are, okay? So when you're cutting, the same thing goes. As you cut, you try to keep your chest up. Don't do this, okay? Keep your head up and keep your chest up so that your posture is good, okay? So that's the first Suburi, straight up and straight down, okay? The second Suburi looks like this. You're stepping back now with your right foot, and you bring your sword up to here. And then you step forward and do the same kind of cut. Step back. So in this position, your left foot is forward. Okay, and you can see the angle in my sword. Step forward, right to the spine, and then straight down to the navel, level with the ground. Here. Here. The purpose of this is kind of like if we're facing each other and you thrust forward, maybe I have to step back to get away from that thrust. Then I can come back forward to cut if I need to. Okay, so here's that. Watch the elbows again. Draw back. Elbows are in, not like this. okay? And then you step forward for your cut. When you draw back here, okay, you can see hopefully that the sword is right above my forehead here. Not above my head, but kind of above the forehead, or right in front of the forehead. Okay, you can see how this is, like this. And then as I cut, my elbows come forward. Okay, so this is ni no suburi. Start in your kamae like you normally are. Step back, step forward and cut. Step back, step forward and cut. Step back and forward. Do it this way. Keep going. Try to, every time I do a repetition, I'd like you to do one. And there can be a breathing practice here too. Breathe in, breathe out. 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 Remember to, I've got neighbors on either side of me, and I really don't want to disturb my neighbors, so I'm not going to be over here going, ah, you know, crazy bald guy with a stick, call the police or something, okay? But when you breathe in from the belly, breathe out from the belly too. You guys remember I've talked to you about this. Hey, from the belly, tightening the abdominal muscles and letting that air and that sound come from your belly like there's a powerful animal down there that has a growl that wants to come out. And it's not an angry growl. It's not a mean growl. It's not particularly a happy growl. It's just power from your center. Hey, okay, feel that exhalation. And as you're cutting, you can even imagine that the breath and the ki come out through the sword like a laser beam, like the Force from Star Wars, okay? A few more times. Ni no suburi, the second suburi. Hey. 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 When you cut, I want you to think elbows, hands, sword. Elbows, hands, sword. Drop your hips, chest up, head up, have a good posture. Sword level to the ground. Hey. Okay, so one last thing about this second suburi, which is a subtlety. It's hard to see it. Okay, but as I step forward and as I'm cutting, my hips turn subtly as they're dropping because of the hani I'm standing in. My back foot is turned. As I bend my knees, the hips will naturally turn so that if this is lined up on my pelvic bone, it's on a diagonal. Here's straight. Okay, it's actually kind of hard to stand that way. But as I lower my hips when I cut, it turns sideways a little bit, diagonal. And the same happens for my shoulders. As I cut, it's a little bit of a diagonal here with the right shoulder forward. So the hips are more straight here, okay? And then as I cut, they turn just a little bit, you guys. Don't overdo it. You're not sideways yet. Hey. That feeling of hips power and the dropping of the center, that is where the power of the cut comes from, not in your muscles in your shoulders. Sensei used to say, just let your sword cut for the power of gravity. Just gravity. Boop. Just gravity. Boom. Boom. That's sort of that's how much power you should put into your sword. You're not like, okay, you're not cutting like that. Just gravity. Okay? And any more power that comes into that cut comes from the hips dropping. This is just gravity. It's gravity. Boom. I'm just letting it fall. Boom. I'm keeping control of it. Okay, but it's just gravity. Boom. Okay, when I put my hips into it, the power shows up. Okay, that's hips, not muscles. All right. So that's the first two, Ichi no Suburi and Ni no Suburi. Next is San no Suburi, Ichi ni San. This one is a little bit like the second one, but instead of an angle, the sword will be directly pointing up. That's strange. Unknown Alexa audio. Okay, that's random. Okay, so here's Ni no Suburi, right? With the sword on an angle. When you do San no Suburi, it comes straight up like this. Move back a little more so you can see. Straight up. And my body turns more sideways. So, straight up. Then drop it down. So your hand is on your back, the hip bone back here. And then you bring it back up and cut. Okay, so because you could see the angle on it, I'm gonna get a little closer now so you can see what happens with the hands. So bring it up to here, straight up above my head. Okay, you can see that, right? But it's not on top of my head. It's like right here in front of my forehead, okay? So when I lower it down, you can see it's right here where my belt is. And then when I cut, it comes right back up to my center line as I step forward. This is what it looks like when I'm facing you. Okay. Now when I do this, it should be hidden from you. It's like I want to hide it. I don't want you to see what I'm about to do next. And then I step forward to cut. It comes straight back up my center. Okay. So let's try a couple together. Remember to breathe in as you raise the sword up. Straight up in the air. Drop it down to here. Hide it from me. Step forward. Bring it to your spine. Slowly cut down. Stop it level with the earth. Breathe in. Breathe out. Hey. Breathe in. Breathe out. Hey. Breathe in. Drop it. Breathe out. Hey. Breathe in. Breathe out. Hey. I mentioned that for the third Suburi like this, your body is definitely sideways. You can see my body sideways there. When I do the second Suburi, my body is more forward. You can see my hips are like this. With the third Suburi, they're like this. Here. Hide. Go. Okay, that's the third Suburi. The fourth is going to be just like number one, straight up and down cutting, except we're going to walk forward as we cut. All right? So if I'm reviewing with you, number one is just like this, straight up and down. Okay, straight up and down. So number four, yon no Suburi, is going to look like this. I'm going to step forward as I cut. Okay, and so if I do it real slow motion, the point where my feet are together is where the sword is at my spine. Okay. As I step forward, the sword goes to my spine, pause. Then keep going and finish your cut. Same thing on the next one. Step forward. Finish your cut. Okay. Feet together, sword to the spine. Cut. Feet together. Cut. Feet together. Cut. Feet together. Cut. All right, we're going to get fancy here. Watch what I do. Cut. Cut. Hey. Hey. I'm just pivoting, okay? I'm just pivoting my hanmi when I turn. And as I do that, I'm raising the sword to my spine again. Left. Right. Left. Right. Pivot. Left. Right. Left. Right. Coming towards you. Left. Right. Left. Right. Pivot. Left. Right. Left. Right. Pivot. Left. Right. Left. Right. Okay, so that's number 4, the 4th Suburi. Now, I want you to try to think about what you think the word Suburi means. S-U-B-U-R-I, Suburi. Suburi, there's Suburi with the sword, and there's Suburi with the jo. This is a boken, right? Ken is sword, and bo is wood. Boken, wooden sword. Jo is the medium size staff. The one that's as tall as me is called a bow. Not like a bow and arrow, but bow. This is boken, wood. All that means is wood, 6 feet tall. There's a shorter version of the jo, which is called a hanbo. It just means half bow. Okay, so we've got the middle size, that jo. Anyways, the individual movements that we practice are called Suburi. You put those things together and it makes a kata, a form. All right, and you have to be able to do your Suburi carefully and precisely and you know, exactly before you can start doing the katas and the paired practices. There are a lot of really cool paired practices where you're sword fighting with somebody else, or you're fighting, not fighting, but you're doing the form with, somebody else with a jo, 2 jos, or a jo versus a sword. It's really fun and very cool. But you need to know what you're doing so that you don't crack somebody in the head. All right. So I want you guys to know the stuff we're doing here, it's very basic and almost like robotic a little bit, but you have to practice like that in order for it to get fast and smooth. Okay. If you can't do it slow, you can't do it fast. All right. Now, when we do this next one, the 5th, this is where it gets a little bit more dynamic, and you have to imagine that there's somebody in front of you that you need to get around. You have to get around their sword so you can go in and cut them. They're a bad guy, okay? So, we got another sword here. So if the swords are crossed like this, okay? If I'm gonna move over here to cut somebody, I'm going to use my sword as a shield, okay? So you imagine I'm holding this one, right? You're holding this one. If I move to the left over here and I'm using my sword as a shield, I still can't get you. You still can't get me is what I mean. Okay, but by the time I get over here, now I can cut. So you're using your sword as a shield against the other person. And I think it's best shown if I do that first from behind so you can see. There's a person in front of me with the sword crossed. I want to step forward and cut them over here. Okay, but if I just raise my sword up to do that, I'll get speared. So as I step forward, I get under my sword like this, and I come around so I can cut them. When I'm doing this, I make sure that their sword is on so that they can't cut me. It's a shield. And then I come around and I can cut them. It's a way of getting around your opponent's sword, like this. But what you got to understand is this movement right here is almost like a block. You're blocking or you're shielding yourself from that other sword before you can come around and cut. I really wish I had somebody here to show this with so you can understand it more. But meanwhile, you just have to practice the movement with me, okay? So we're going to do this in place first, okay? And let me show you what it looks like. This is the first Suburi, up and down, right? The fifth Suburi, I'm stepping and the sword is going around so that I can protect myself from the other person's sword. So you can see it goes, the tip, when I'm stepping with my right foot, the tip goes to the left. When I'm stepping with my left foot, the tip goes to the right. The other way you can think about it is, if I'm stepping with my left foot, my hands follow my left foot. If I'm stepping with my right foot, my hands follow my right foot. Okay? Try not to overthink this. Watch it from the back. Left side comes around. Right side comes around. Okay, if you're in an enclosed space, okay, or there's someone else close to you, you got to spread out a little bit. Or like if you're in a hallway or a foyer, you might want to get in front of each other, one in front of each other. Because when you're a beginner, you start swinging your sword all around like this. Really, all you're doing is raising the bottom hand straight up your center each time. Watch this bottom hand. Straight up my center each time. I'm just bringing it to my spine each time. Okay, that's the fifth Suburi. So I'm going to do it in motion. I'm going to step forward. Depending on what kind of space you have, you might need to just step in place, okay? So I'm starting with my right foot forward. Left. Right. Left. Right. Pivot. Left. Right. Left. Right. Pivot. Left. Right. Left. Right. Pivot. Left. Feet together. Sword to the spine. Right. Left. Feet together. Sword to the spine. Left. Right. Left. Right. So, fifth Suburi, that's teaching you how to move forward with a cut while also protecting yourself, okay? When we do this with a partner, the defender, like if we were practicing together and I was just doing that, you would be stepping back. Every time I step forward, you step back. And you do a special kind of a cut, which is a block. We go back and forth. So we're each practicing cutting and blocking each time, cooperating, learning how to cut and to block at the same time. Now, the next one, the sixth Okay, Roku no Suburi. It is a 5th Suburi cut and then a thrust. Okay, it's a 5th Suburi cut and a sliding forward thrust on each side, right side, left side. Okay, so I'm going to show you what that looks like. Basically, I step forward and cut. And if I've got my left foot forward, I keep my left foot forward and I thrust. I cut on the right side. I slide forward with my right side and thrust. My body is sideways. Okay? If I cut on the right side, I thrust on the right side. You can see my body is sideways here. I cut on the left side and I thrust on the left side. And you can see my body is sideways. And this is shitoemi here. Let me angle it a little bit more so you can see, hopefully. Okay? Because when I lay this down here, here's the line. My toes are in line with the back of my foot. See that? The angle's kind of weird. Okay? And the reason for that shitoemi is to bring that hip back so that the body is sideways. So when I'm thrusting at you, my upper body is less of a target. I don't want to be like this with my shoulders square to you. I want to be here. Okay, so let's do it in place. I think that's the easiest way to start. So we got your right foot forward. So just cut straight up and down here and then thrust. Then come around 5th and thrust. 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 Cut, thrust. So that's Roku no Suburi, the 6th Suburi. You're cutting on, if you cut on the right side, you thrust on the left side. If you cut on the left side, you thrust on the left side. And so the new thing that you're learning in this is how to thrust while keeping your upper body sideways. And you're learning the new stance of shitoemi instead of hanmi. Okay? That's hanmi. This is shitoemi. Hannah, my dog, is having a fit because she can see me out here. Okay, now look at my upper body as I'm thrusting here. If my left foot is forward, this is hard because I have to stay really sideways and look, my arm is tight up against my body here. And this arm is thrusting way out in front. See that? But it should still come straight from my center. It's not out like this. Okay? It's from my center. Thrusting. And the blade turns sideways a little bit. Not like this. Sideways. Okay? Woo, it's hot back here. On these stones. It's like a oven. Okay. The last one here, the 7th Suburi, is you are only cutting on the right, and then you're going to step forward and cut on the left. Okay, so it looks like this. You cut on the right, and then you step forward and thrust on the left. Cut on the right, thrust on the left. So start like this so that I can cut on the right, and I step forward, thrust on the left. Shitoemi with my feet. Cut on the right, step forward, thrust on the left. Cut on the right, thrust on the left. Cut on the right, step forward, thrust on the left. Body sideways. All right, let's do it away from you. Cut on the right, Thrust on the left. Sideways, stoemi. Cut on the right. Thrust on the left. 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 So those are the first 7 Suburi. And so we have recordings of all these classes, you guys, right? So not only do you have all of the Jo Suburi from previous classes, but now this is the second class where I've shown you all 7 Suburi straight through in a period of about 40 minutes. So if there's one way that I would tell you to get better at Aikido, it is to practice this stuff that I'm showing you. You don't need anybody there with you. You just can do it by yourself in your backyard. And honestly, after a while, you don't even need to see it. If you just listen to my voice, you'd hear me say, cut on the right, thrust on the left, cut on the right, thrust. You don't need to see anything. You just listen to it in your headphones out there by yourself. Okay, because I know that for some of you guys, it's hard to train outside because you don't have a TV out there. Or your phone is so small and you can't really see it out in the sun like this. I can hardly see myself on the computer. So put it in your earphones and listen to it. And you can probably still do it, you guys, okay? All right. So the next thing that we're gonna do here, we have a few more minutes, is practice turning and cutting in different directions. And we've been working a lot on Shihonage on the mat. And so when you're stepping and turning and cutting in different directions, you are doing the Shihonage movement. Okay, so you cut and turn. Okay, so if you're grabbing my arm, my wrist here, and I go off the line, I grab your wrist, I step through and under, or omote waza, and I throw you. Okay, it's the same movement that we're doing with the sword. Cut, thrust, cut, thrust. Or I can do urawaza, cut, cut. I was saying cut, thrust, cut, turning, 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 cut again. In essence, we're facing each other with our swords crossed, and you start to attack me. I step off the line and cut across the belly, cut across the belly, turn, and then cut you again over here, neck. Cut the belly, cut the neck. Okay, and the way you end up cutting the neck is if I'm your attacker, I step forward to cut, you slice, and I come like this, and then you chuck. Kind of violent sounding, right? Slice, turn, cut. All right, obviously, I don't want any of you guys cutting anybody, but it helps to know the origins of the techniques so that you really understand the spirit of Aikido, okay? Yes, this came from samurai sword tradition, which was designed for killing, okay? These guys were soldiers and women. They were samurai women too, so. And they were aristocrats, many of them, of varying degrees. And so they didn't have to work. Their work was training. And so they would train all the time. And their life was practice, practice, practice. And then also practicing the arts. So they practice their swords, they practice their spear, they practice archery from horses and all different other kinds of things, wrestling and that kind. And then they would practice calligraphy, composing poetry, haiku, flower arranging, the tea ceremony, painting, all kinds of different things, you guys. And they cultivated that spirit inside of themselves. And O Sensei took that a little step further and said, let's use all of this spirit of Budo, the true spirit of Budo, and take away the aggression part of it and bring it more to the heart of it, which is protection of people, not the pursuit of violence or the pursuit of aggression, but being able to be as deadly and formidable as a samurai without the following orders to go kill other people. Okay, so when I'm talking to you about slicing and dicing here, it sounds a little dramatic, but I want you to understand that Aikido does have the element of life and death in it. Okay, it's not ballroom dancing. This isn't just like movement with no meaning. Okay, so you're training to be a powerful warrior so that you can then make a decision, an ethical decision about how to handle danger around you. Okay, I can, if I need to, be deadly, or I can deal with the threat that you are in a way that's benevolent, kind, understanding, compassionate. I don't have to hurt you, but the only way I can actually be a formidable warrior is that I have to be able to do both things. I have to be able to be powerful and deadly, okay, in order for me to choose to be peaceful. Otherwise, I have to be peaceful because I can't do anything else. I don't have the physical ability. So training this way, I think, is really, really good. It gives you a choice about how to be. A pacifist, somebody who says, oh, I don't want any war. I just want peace. I just want to be peaceful. Well, you have to be peaceful, son, because you have no warrior skills. It's not really a choice. I mean, what are you going to do? I'm somebody with no martial training, and so I'm going to choose to either be a warrior or I'm going to be peaceful. It doesn't work like that. Okay, I would rather be. There's a saying: I would rather be a warrior in a garden than be a gardener in a war. Okay, think about that. Train hard and become dangerous. And then you can choose to be benevolent if you can. If the bad guys are unrelenting, then you can allow your dangerousness to stop the threat until they stop. Think about that and talk about it with your friends and your parents and see if you can figure out what I'm talking about. Okay? All right. So one last thing here. We're going to do Happogiri now. That's cutting in 8 directions. Okay? Cardinal directions and then diagonals. So let me see if I can line up directly with the camera so you guys can see the angles that I'm on. So it'll look like this. I'm going to cut forward, back. And then I step to these other directions, left and right, and then the diagonals. And each time I move, I'm moving with my left foot only. Okay, and even back to the beginning, it's my left foot. Okay, so probably more effective for you to follow if I go this way. So step back to prepare. First cut, pivot, cut behind you. Second cut. Step with the left foot, pivot, cut behind you, and cut behind you again. So you've got your left foot forward now. Move your left foot to the diagonal, cut behind you, cut behind you. Move your left foot to the other diagonal. And then turn back to the original line. Back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and back to the original line. So let's line up, please, back to your original position. Sword is in the left hand. Domo arigatou gozaimashita. And move it into your right hand now. All right, guys. So I'm going to bring